Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. Today I'm going to share with you some dynamic, three-dimensional, functional mobility exercises. I want us to change our thought process of looking at stretching muscles and think more about stretching regions in preparation for movement. Many of us would think of the front of our hip as a hip flexor, and many people think the hip flexor is right here. And while there is a very small hip flexor here, the main hip flexor goes all the way up and attaches at the level of the diaphragm on the spine. So it is your main connection of the leg to the trunk. So in order to truly prepare this muscle for movement or region for movement, we need to be thinking about preparing that movement in all three planes: forward, back, side to side, and rotational. Also, when we're thinking about stretching regions and or muscles, many people are thinking about stretching in the direction of which the attachments occur. So for a hamstring, it attaches from top to bottom, so they think, okay, I need to stretch a hamstring in this plane of motion. Or a hip flexor, I need to do this plane of motion. However, many of these muscles have these attachments that wrap around and have a lot to do with controlling that rotational plane of motion. So if we're stretching a muscle in only one plane or a region in only one plane, we're really missing the boat on preparing for movement, because in order to prepare for something for movement, we need to basically put length into it to get it to load. So the mobility exercises I'm about to show you will show you how you can really address this front region of your hip three-dimensionally. Now I'm going to show it in a kneeling position because I think it more directly gets into the area and I like it for that reason, but some people do have an issue with kneeling. So if you do, know that you can take the same stretch and do it in a standing lunge position. Just make sure you're near somewhere where you have support so you are able to effectively do the mobility exercise. If you have that feeling of instability, your body will not allow you to get the same stretch out of something because it's going to always want to protect against falling. So make sure you have something to hold on to with one hand. So we're going to do kneeling, and again, because knees can sometimes not be comfortable kneeling on hard surfaces, I'm going to use a pad. My kneeling leg is the leg that we're stretching. My forward leg is the one that I use the hand support for. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get comfortable coming forward and back so that I'm feeling the front of this hip. I want to just get a sense of where my end range is. Then what we're going to do is use this arm, so the kneeling leg is the arm driver arm, as the motion for driving our trunk three-dimensionally over this front of the hip. So the first one we're going to do is in what's called the sagittal plane, the forward back plane. So as I'm lunging forward here, I'm going to take my arm and reach overhead and look at my hand. So I'm going into an extension position. Now, as I'm doing this, the key, I'm only going as far as my hip lets me go. Okay, as soon as my hip stops, my hand stops. Because if my hip stops and I keep going with my hand, I'm cranking into my back. You should have no pain in your back with this. So do not go past what your hip lets you do. So this is the first one. Then we're going to go into the frontal plane, which is the side-to-side plane. So now as I'm lunging forward on this leg, I'm going to go to the side and I'm looking at my hand. And when you're doing these, you're pretty much going to do 3 or 4 repetitions. There's no set number. Just go until the motion starts getting a little bit easier. Now we're going to go into the rotational plane. You can do a straight arm. I prefer a goalpost. And as I go forward on this leg, I'm rotating to the left and I'm really getting a nice shoulder turn. My whole trunk is moving over this hip. Then I'm going to do all 3 at the same time. So I get extension, side bend, and rotation by taking my hand across my face and looking over my shoulder like I'm changing lanes in a car. Okay? If you only have time to do one, do that last one. I prefer that you do all 4, but if you only have time for one, the last one gets all 3 planes of motion. Now, if you want to turn this into somewhat of a 3-in-1 stretch, you can take this front leg, move it a little wider, so as you're coming forward, you'll get a little more into your adductors. Or you can turn it into a hamstring stretch. Bring your toes to your nose and balance on your heel, slight bend in your knee, and now you keep your chest up and hinge at the hip and come forward. You can rotate, you can side bend, hold on this side, come forward that way, side bend, rotate to get into this hamstring. If you have the balance, you can do it without holding on, but again, if you don't have good enough stability, use hand support. And then again, if all of these are uncomfortable on your knee, you can take it into a standing position and basically go into heel up, and I can get all my hamstring, I can go into heel down and in this big nice lunge, and now I'm going to get all my hip flexor exercises in. So take that out for a spin, give it a try, and then as soon as you're done, make sure you turn around and do the other side, and then take some steps and walk, and you'll be amazed at how loose your hips are. Now your hips are really ready for motion, and this is especially important if you're going to the gym after sitting at your desk or sitting in the car. Sitting shuts down this whole front region or hip flexor region. So we really want to prepare it for movement before you're going to go into dynamic gym exercises. So definitely give this a try. It's great to do before and after you work out. And as always, I love feedback and questions, so make sure you reach out if you have any questions. Enjoy the stretching and the mobility exercises, have fun with it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!